How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, coming to you again from a hotel room in Naples, Florida, where we hope the hotel Wi-Fi has stabilized today. We've got to begin with the latest allegations about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, not for the reason you think. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are testifying before the United States House of Representatives Oversight Committee today behind closed doors. Hillary Clinton's opening statement intends to deny she knew anything about Jeffrey Epstein or ever met him, but demand that Donald Trump himself involve himself and testify. This comes as in the last 24 hours, a report has come out that much of the information about Donald Trump and someone who alleged abuse by Donald Trump has been redacted by the Trump administration. Here's what's notable. First of all, this is Russiagate 2.0. Here comes Hillary Clinton to make a case about Donald Trump, and surprise, surprise, the media 12 hours before she comes out trots out Russiagate 2.0. Remember, the allegations about Trump and Russia came from the Clinton campaign, and they were fed through a series of reporters and elected officials, made it to the press. It was blown up by BuzzFeed, and it all turned out not to be true. In fact, the Mueller investigation showed it wasn't true, but the press couldn't help themselves rushing with these allegations. And now you've got these allegations that Donald Trump abused some young woman. It is no coincidence that the allegations are being circulated by liberal members of the media before Hillary Clinton's speech. It is the exact same playbook as Russiagate. What's notable here, though, are the number of liberal reporters who are starting to raise flags about the allegations. So you've got Stephen Fowler at National Public Radio, who's a progressive activist reporter in the South, who tweets out an NPR investigation finds the public database of Epstein files is missing dozens of pages related to sexual abuse allegations against President Trump. Other documents that mention Trump have been taken down. The Justice Department has withheld some Epstein files related to allegations that President Trump abused a minor. That is from National Public Radio reporter Stephen Fowler, who is a left-wing reporter who used to report for local Georgia broadcasting and pretty aggressively pushing the progressive Russiagate 2.0 story in the run-up to Hillary Clinton's testimony. National Public Radio, of course, very angry with Donald Trump for having gotten their funding cut and slowly being winded down across the nation. Of course, it's a progressive outlet that refuses to admit it's a progressive outlet that trots out the allegations. Jacqueline Sweet is an investigative journalist. Let me give you her background. She's written for left-wing Rolling Stone, left-wing Politico, left-wing Drop Site News, left-wing Intercept, and the left-wing Guardian. Not exactly a conservative here. These are not conservative publications, and she's raising the red flag, telling her journo brethren, maybe step back on this one. Let me read for you. She responds to Stephen Fowler's tweet of the report. I spoke to Mark Epstein, that would be Jeffrey Epstein's brother, who said he had never heard of his brother summering in South Carolina in the early 80s for several summers, and he said there's no way he wouldn't have known that. There are so many problems with this woman's story. It reads as lurid, fantastical, improbable, and contains many glaring details that do not fit Epstein's MO. But most notably, there is no record or any indication that Epstein summered in Hilton Head, South Carolina for several summers. He spent the early 80s in Sweden, London, New York, but we're supposed to believe he rented a middle-class condo in Hilton Head Island and no one knew about it then or now. The account has no corroboration. She first had the idea that the man who abused her was Epstein after her friend suggested it to her once Epstein was in the news in 2019. She was rejected from the Epstein Victims Compensation Program, which is a major red flag. She was repped by Lisa Bloom, who's worked with the discredited Katie Johnson Epstein Trump accuser. The South Carolina woman's story has Epstein speaking in foreign languages, cuck chairs, rape, uttering movie lines like "this won't end well for you" and "fresh meat." She seemed surprised by what Epstein looked like in photos shown to her and so on. If anyone read that FBI interview and it didn't raise red flags, that might be a bias problem. I can't believe Democrats have hitched their wagon to this. So left-wing reporters have rushed out fresh allegations about Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and an abused young woman in Hilton Head, South Carolina, where Jeffrey Epstein's brother Mark, who hates Donald Trump, says Jeffrey Epstein never went. Nothing is inconsistent. She is repped by a lawyer who has tried repeatedly to trash Donald Trump and tie him to Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what we know for fact. Donald Trump was one of the people who reported Epstein and Maxwell to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. And isn't it notable how so many of the people rushing out these unsubstantiated allegations just completely ignore the fact that Donald Trump is actually documented to have called the sheriff in Palm Beach County, Florida, and said, hey, Jeffrey Epstein is a bad guy. Ghislaine Maxwell is evil. Everybody in the high society types, they know this. So ignore that and focus on unsubstantiated allegations. We are within a near week-long media cycle, not quite a week, but close to it, a near week-long media cycle of the press corps trashing the American men's hockey team. And by the way, they've pivoted now to start trashing the women's hockey team because the women won't condemn the men for hanging out with Donald Trump. The press corps hates everything about America. They didn't stand up. The press didn't stand up. And by the way, the press is doubling down on we don't stand up for anyone. Yeah, the hell you do. You stand up for Jeffrey Epstein's alleged abuse victims who might have claimed to have ties to Donald Trump. You'll stand up for them. You won't stand up for Team USA. You'll stand up for Eileen Gu, who's working with and paid for by the Chinese Communist Party, but you won't stand up for Alyssa Liu. The American press corps is in on it. It has been. We've always known, but look how rapidly they've deteriorated from we're objective to, oh my gosh, have you heard this latest story about Donald Trump? I'm not surprised it's an NPR reporter pushing this, given how Trump and the Republicans have gutted NPR. This isn't news. This is payback. So much of what the press is doing is payback to Donald Trump for undermining National Public Radio, for daring to get elected a second time, despite everything they threw at him. And now the same people who brought you Russiagate bring you Russiagate 2.0, salacious stories that do not hold up under even moderate levels of scrutiny. They just simply can't understand that he's beaten them. Repeatedly, he's beaten them. This is where we are in the United States today. The American press corps, we both rely on it. You got to know what goes on in the world. And so much of conservative media, not all of it, but a lot of conservative media takes the stuff that's reported by the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, elsewhere, and regurgitates those stories. The right is growing a reporting capability, but there are very few right-wing newsrooms in America that have bureaus around the world. The Wall Street Journal is less and less right, although I would say it's more centrist than most of the others. But it doesn't have global newsrooms. You still rely on the New York Times and elsewhere, but you also have to be deeply mindful of the amount of hostility reporters and the press have to the United States. And by the way, I think that's why the reaction of the sports press to Team USA is actually very good for people to see, because the truth is that the sports press in the United States is actually far more hostile to the United States than the political press. The sports press was willing to wipe out the credibility of the National Football League for Colin Kaepernick and vilified anyone who wouldn't take a knee with Colin Kaepernick. It wasn't the political press doing that. It was the sports press. The sports press has elevated Eileen Gu and dismissed the fact that she's a propagandist for the Chinese Communist Party. We had reporters in Milan asking American athletes how they felt representing this country in these times. They never asked Eileen Gu what she thought about the Uyghurs or the persecution of the people of Hong Kong. They wouldn't ask her about that. They wanted to ask the American athletes political questions, and to the extent they asked Eileen Gu political questions, they asked her political questions about the United States, the country that she's turned her back on, and they wouldn't ask her about the Chinese Communist Party. They wouldn't ask her about the abuse, because the American press would rather China win than America win. We have an American press corps actively rooting against the United States. Trust in the American press is at an all-time low. People would rather syphilis than the press. And here they come trotting out Russiagate 2.0 to assail the president of the United States with rumors and nonsense. And at least you do have some reporters standing up saying, wait a second, guys, none of this adds up. The people who have actually become deeply involved in investigating the patterns and practices of Epstein and his routines are the ones out there saying this story is not true. But the rest of the press doesn't care. It's an allegation about Donald Trump. By the way, side note of just how brain-rotted and stupid the American press corps is, you know the number one issue that circulates among people right now, independents in particular, about Trump is corruption. A growing body of independents who are going to vote in November are concerned about corruption, and one of the reasons they're leaning towards the Democrats is the idea of this administration being corrupt. Rightly or wrongly, you may not think it is, but a growing number of independents do, and the polling shows it. And so they kind of want the Democrats to hold the Republicans accountable. But instead, they want to peddle fake rumors about Jeffrey Epstein instead of focusing on that. And there's plenty of stuff to focus on there, but they're not doing it. They could be focusing on spending and the economy, but they're not doing it. In large part, they're not doing it because what's happened with this Epstein documentation is Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton testify before the House is they're trying to protect their precious, the Clintons and the Democrats, and they need a distraction. They're not really interested so much in focusing on the news that matters to the public and will help them shape their minds. They're interested in distracting from Hillary Clinton. Oh, Hillary says that she knows nothing, but that Donald Trump needs to testify, and along comes these allegations. I think they need to be investigated. The press corps is just a branch of the Democratic Party. Now, I realize I'm telling you everything you need to know. And I realize I'm telling you everything you already know or think you know. I realize I don't have to persuade you that the press is corrupt. I realize I don't have to persuade you that the press are progressives. But I think it really is worth noting the connection that is being missed today, that this allegation has surfaced in the run-up to the Clintons testifying as a way to distract from Bill Clinton's behaviors with Jeffrey Epstein. They would rather you focus on Donald Trump. And so the very same people who brought you Russiagate 1.0 are bringing you Russiagate 2.0 because it's what they do. And the pattern is the same, and watching National Public Radio fall for it and engage in it, it's what they tend to do. These people don't just hate America, they think you're too stupid to see the pattern. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. So I have been at a meeting of the vast right-wing conspiracy. It's all very hush-hush. I can't tell you who's here. Can't tell you what we're talking about. But I'm going to tell you this. I got up and went to breakfast this morning at the gathering of the vast right-wing conspiracy. And do you know what was on the menu? Vegan sausage and turkey bacon. Now, I don't know who picked the menu. But I showed up at a meeting of the vast right-wing conspiracy. Back in my day, when I was 5 and 6 going to these things, they'd serve you scotch and steak for breakfast. And now we got vegan sausage. Are we all getting that old? Vegan sausage and turkey bacon and some scrambled eggs with no salt in them. I did have oatmeal, and if you listened to the show for a very long time, you know that I love oatmeal. And so I had a bowl of oatmeal. I couldn't bring myself to even attempt the vegetable-based sausage. We have brought the R word back. The conservative movement has brought the R word back, and we've turned it into sausage that we serve to each other. This is a horrifying turn of events in my life. I refused, and I want you to know I vocally objected to it, and I called it out and said, I don't know who did this, but whoever did it, if it was part of this group, should lose their job, because I refuse to be part of a vast conspiracy of right-wingers who eat vegetable-based sausage and turkey bacon. The only like non-vegan thing was the butter for the toast. And the eggs. They did have scrambled eggs. And I'm assuming they were real eggs and not like synthetic homeopathic vegan-based soy eggs. I'm surprised they didn't serve soy milk with the coffee. They had whole milk, skim milk, and almond milk. There was no soy milk. That would have been I would have had to revolt altogether. I would have had to absolutely revolt. The idea of who in their right mind wants vegetable sausage patties, vegetable-based sausage patties? That's disgusting. And don't tell me, oh, you should try it. You'll like it. No, I will not like it. I will not like vegetable sausage patties. I can assure you, God does not like vegetable sausage patties. God's up there like, I made them pigs. I taught them how to make sausage with the pigs, and now they're taking the vegetables that I made for the pigs, and they're turning the vegetables into sausage. These people, it's an abomination. How about I end this planet in fire? I did water first and fire next. We've brought judgment on ourselves by looking at the pigs and saying, hey, pigs, stop eating those vegetables. We want to turn them into sausage. Hellfire cannot come quickly enough for this world with what we have done to it. That and at least they didn't serve us the Impossible Burger, the Beyond Burger, the Trans Burger is what it is. Good Lord. I'm offended, but I'll move on now to tell you about my water heater. You can ditch your tank today, and you can go to a tankless water heater. You can do it for your current home. You don't have to be building a new house, but if you're building a new house, that's a no-brainer to get a tankless water heater from Renai. Go to talkingtankless.com. See how you can yank out your tank, put in a tankless water heater. In my house, at least, it saved our energy bills. And you know what? When the power went out, we still have hot water because got a UPS backup I can plug the thing into, and it just works. We have hot water forever. As long as you have gas flowing, you got water flowing, you're going to have hot water. My kids don't fight over it, and you won't either. And by the way, they're very reasonably priced. If you're in the market for a new water tank, consider not putting another tank in your house and getting a tankless water heater as well, where it's also not going to flood your basement like our water tank did, which is why we went with the tankless one after that happened. TalkingTankless.com is the website. TalkingTankless.com. Go talk to Renai about a tankless water heater. If you go to TalkingTankless.com, they got a little button. You click it to talk to a Renai professional who can install your tankless water heater ASAP. TalkingTankless.com. Have hot water forever in the fighting over hot water in your house. TalkingTankless.com. Greetings, conversationalists. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, you can text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, and so much more. It is a vegan sausage-free zone, just so you know. Good Lord. An abomination, desolation. This is scripture is referencing vegan bacon and vegan sausage. I must move on and let it go, like Elsa said. We got to talk about Texas. Texas Tribune has polling out. I got to be real honest with you here. I think James Talarico is going to win the Texas Democratic primary because I can't imagine the Democrats want to throw that race away. However, the Texas Tribune does a pretty good job with its polling. And the Texas Tribune says, well, Jasmine Crockett's probably going to win. Dallas U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett has a double-digit lead over Austin State Representative James Talarico in the final days of Texas's Senate Democratic primary, according to a new poll in the survey fielded. No, this poll's not a good poll. February 2nd to February 16th, that's too long of a window. Crockett garnered the support of 56% of the voters. Talarico got 44%. For the Democratic primary, pollsters from the University of Texas Politics Project surveyed the results, 369 voters. No, this is a bad poll. February 2nd to February 16th, you only surveyed 369 people. That's not a good polling number. At the same time, however, the University of Houston has found that Crockett is winning. YouGov has found that Crockett is winning, and one other pollster has found that Crockett is winning. 4 separate polls have shown Jasmine Crockett ahead of James Talarico. Now, Jasmine Crockett is the congresswoman who had become a firebrand. And I've had Republicans and Democrats both on Capitol Hill say that, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a stupid person who does an impression of a smart person, and Jasmine Crockett is a smart person who does an impression of a stupid person. Think about it. You got 4 polls that have Crockett winning. The Democrats are desperate for her not to win because it shows that even Ken Paxton, if she's the nominee, could win in Texas in the Senate in November. If Talarico is the nominee, white moderates in Texas have the option of voting for him if Ken Paxton is the nominee. I mean, this is the bottom line. For Republicans in Texas, you need to know that voting for John Cornyn actually matters because Ken Paxton is such a terrible, vulnerable candidate in the general election. He is just a scandal plagued. He's not a good guy. You got his daughter coming out saying that he's a man of deep faith. All I can think is, my goodness, your mistress must be named Faith. Let me just play you the latest ad from John Cornyn. It gives you an accurate sense of who Ken Paxton is. Nothing said in this ad is untrue.
It's voting time, so let's cut through the bullshit. Crooked Ken Paxton cheated on his wife. She's divorcing him on biblical grounds. So now Paxton's wrecking another home, sleeping around with a married mother of 7. And remember this, Crooked Ken has increased his net worth by as much as 7,000% since taking office. And his actions in office, even more troubling. Paxton gave millions of Texas tax dollars to left-wing organizations, including the Montrose Center that hosts drag queen shows and performs gender-affirming services to kids as young as 7. Now think of the Paxton dirty deeds we don't know about yet. The wife cheater and fraud, or the Texas workhorse. Senator John Cornyn is endorsed by the Border Patrol, and he voted with President Trump 99% of the time. Cornyn got the money to finish the damn wall. Texans know what to do.
I'm John Cornyn, and I approve this message. Join my team and give today.
Endorsed by the Border Patrol. That's how it ends. Yeah, I mean, listen, Ken Paxton is a deeply corrupt individual. And you Republicans in Texas risk falling into the Herschel Walker trap, where Republicans say, I got to go stand by my man. Donald Trump says vote for Herschel Walker. Now, Trump is, by the way, stayed out of the Texas race. And you vote for Herschel Walker, and everybody sees the attacks that are coming. And the attacks come, and enough women vote for Raphael Warnock that he goes back to the Senate. If you got James Talarico in Texas, it becomes very easy to convince more moderate women that they should vote for Talarico, who claims to be a Christian. However, Talarico may not win the Democratic primary in Texas. And do you know why Talarico may not win the Democratic primary in Texas? He might not win because he's a heretic. And you're like, what? Erickson, why would that matter? So follow along with me here. There are a lot of people in the United States who are not white, who vote Democrat, who are Christians. And they vote Democrat for historic reasons. And the New York Times' Ezra Klein, who's pretty aggressively progressive, has touted Talarico as the left's answer to evangelicalism. He is supposedly a Christian. They have referred to him, in fact, in his Wikipedia bio. The number one thing in his Wikipedia bio is he's a seminarian. So am I. I just went to one that didn't practice heresy. James Talarico is a heretic. Now, who are you to judge, Erickson? Well, when you believe that there are multiple paths to heaven and not just Christ, you're a heretic. When you believe that you can learn truths from other religions that may supersede Christianity, you're a heretic. When you believe that Jesus didn't speak about the sins you like, you're a heretic. James Talarico is a heretic. James Talarico actually doesn't talk about Jesus, Son of God. He talks about Jesus of Nazareth as if he's some sort of great philosopher, sign of a heretic. Now, you, if you're white and you're listening to me and you're offended, you're missing the point. Black and Hispanic voters in Texas who still tend to align with the Democratic Party are not heretics. They are Christians. They don't like the Republicans for historic reasons. They're moving towards the Republican Party because of faith issues. And when you have a bunch of people come along, including Ezra Klein, who's not a Christian, who champions James Talarico as some sort of voice of Christendom for the left, well, they tend to react badly to the left elevating a heretic to their faith. Talarico is a heretic. Any mainstream Christian would recognize that James Talarico is a heretic. It's not a matter of me judging him or not judging him. It is me taking his positions as he has stated them and telling you he's a heretic. What qualifies me to say this? I'm an Orthodox Bible-believing Christian. If you don't recognize, you claim to be a Christian and can't recognize he's a heretic, you might be one, or Episcopalian. The problem here is that black and Hispanic voters in Texas who still vote Democrat actually are pretty socially conservative, and they tend to take their faith seriously in a way that Talarico doesn't. He uses it as a political cudgel against his opponents, and that's why the left likes it. They've been trying to find an answer to evangelicals. They found this guy in Austin, Texas, who they think talks Christian to them. Well, listen, if you're an atheist, a non-believer, a secularist, or something else, and you hear a guy who talks about Jesus of Nazareth, you think, oh, he sounds Christian to me. No Christian talks about Jesus of Nazareth on a regular basis. They talk about Jesus Christ. But there are more white people than non-white people in Texas. And if the white Democrats are able to get Talarico across the line, he becomes safe for moderates, independents, and Republican-leaning women to vote for if Ken Paxton is the Republican nominee. By the way, that's why The View is having him on. ABC affiliates in Texas have been sending the FCC equal time notices. The View decided to have on James Talarico. Federal law requires that if on broadcast television you have a candidate on within 45 days of a primary, you have to give that candidate's opponent equal time on television. Everyone in broadcast is bound by this rule. It's not a new rule. The only reason people say, well, it's never been enforced against entertainment. Actually, it was long enforced against entertainment until the Obama administration came along and chose to stop enforcing it against late night TV because the late night comedians were featuring Democratic candidates all the time. They didn't want to have to feature Republicans. It was the Obama White House that said, hey, guys, you can stop this. It's simply not true to say it's never been enforced against shows like The View or Late Night. It was. People cite the Arnold Schwarzenegger exception where he announced his bid for governor on The Tonight Show, except the law is very clear. You have to have filed your paperwork for it to apply to you, and Arnold Schwarzenegger had not had filed for his paperwork, so he was given an exception. People just want to misunderstand the rule. The reason Stephen Colbert and The View are trying to elevate James Talarico is they understand the Republicans might commit suicide in Texas by elevating Ken Paxton. They elevate Ken Paxton. Republicans have to spend massive resources in Texas to try to get him across the finish line, and that deprives them of winning in Georgia, winning in North Carolina, maybe winning in Maine, maybe winning in Michigan, and the Democrats have a good chance of taking back the Senate. The Texas Republicans are on the verge of committing Republican suicide across the nation by elevating a guy like Ken Paxton for spite. And let's be clear here, they're elevating him for spite because John Cornyn is not considered a team player enough for Texas Republicans. even though he votes with the president 99% of the time. Think about that. A man votes with the president 99% of the time, and the Texas Republicans say, you're not a team player. We want the guy who cheated on his wife with a woman who has 7 kids in a marriage. Of course, this same party on the verge of elevating a Wiccan to be Surgeon General. The Republican Party has lost its morals, and I'm sorry if you don't see that, but it has. It is as progressively transactional as the left these days. It just wants power. And it may ironically lose power by abandoning character in Texas by elevating a guy like Ken Paxton, while the Democrats quite possibly play it smart. Now, I should tell you, there are a lot of Republicans in Texas who are jumping into the Democratic primary to vote for Jasmine Crockett. They want her elevated, and the Democrats or the Republicans are a little bit freaked out about it. With just days until Texas's primary, Republicans in Washington are growing more alarmed at their increasingly vicious intra-party contest that could cost them a must-win seat. And they also see the Democratic mobilization in Texas as something they are concerned with. This is Harry Inton on CNN.
Not even exactly talking about the candidates here, which is why it might be even more important.
No, mind blown, to quote the show Blossom, Joey. Whoa! I mean, look at this. Okay, share of Texas midterm primary ballots at this point in the cycle cast in Democratic primaries or Republican primaries. In 2022, the last midterm, overwhelmingly, the votes were being cast in Republican primaries, 62%. But look at what's going on now in the 2026 cycle. More votes are being cast on the Democratic side. What a shift from where we were 4 years ago at this point. More people in Texas picking up the Democratic ballot.
More Democrats are voting in Texas than Republicans. I mean, how unusual is that?
Just how unusual? Well, you see the massive shift from 2022, but look at history. Go all the way back. When was the last time that more people actually picked up a Democratic ballot, cast a ballot in a Democratic primary in Texas in a midterm? You have to go all the way back to 2002. So this could break an over 20-year stretch, my goodness gracious, whereby more people are actually voting on the Democratic side. And I will note, it really hasn't even been close since 2002. Overwhelmingly more people have been voting on the Republican side in Texas. And this year so far, more people are voting on the Democratic side.
So since 2002, more people have voted in Republican primaries in Texas than Democratic primaries until now. My suspicion is you're seeing a lot of Republicans cross over into the Democratic Party side to vote for Jasmine Crockett, and that might actually hurt Ken Paxton. It's very, very interesting to watch this play out in Texas. The alarm bells going off on the Republican Party side about this, the alarm bells going off in the White House over this. The president is going down to Texas to an event, and he hasn't invited any of the Republican contenders to be down there. Donors are trying to tell the White House, you got to back John Cornyn, because otherwise we're going to have to spend so much money in Texas, it could cost us control of the Senate to get Ken Paxton across the finish line because he's such damaged goods. Republicans in Texas could cost Republicans nationwide control of the Senate by putting up a man who cheated on his wife with a married woman who had 7 kids and who funded drag queen shows while claiming to be the conservative choice. Please, Texas Republicans, spare us Ken Paxton on the national stage. If you want to vote for Ken Paxton, instead, go into the Democratic primary and elevate Jasmine Crockett. That will be a fun race to cover, as all the Democrats who try to shut her out and ignore her suddenly kiss up to her if she's the Democratic nominee. That would be hilarious to watch. So, you know, my friends at Van Allen Golf, they're actually the geniuses behind True Precision as well, the fantastic maker of custom firearms and the like. Well, Van Allen Golf is giving a giveaway, and there may be more than a putter involved. If you go to vanallengolf.com, you can see their February giveaway banner. Vanallengolf.com, they're giving away something from True Precision, and they're giving away their Archie milled putter. Check it out at vanallengolf.com. That's ALLEN, vanallengolf.com. Or if you text golf to 33777, I will send you a link. There is some breaking news. The House committee meeting with Hillary Clinton has been suspended. It was supposed to be closed door and on background, and reports are that Lauren Boebert in the room sent a photo of Hillary Clinton testifying to a conservative podcaster, and so the hearing has been suspended for breaching the agreement. Way to go, Lauren Boebert. Way to go. Now, I have to raise your awareness. I am suddenly a big fan of the Tampa airport. Tampa International Airport has released a statement. I'm not making this up. It's time to ban pajamas at Tampa International Airport. After successfully banning Crocs, God bless you people for banning Crocs, and giving everyone the amazing opportunity to experience the world's first Crocs-free airport, it's time to take on an even larger crisis: pajamas at the airport in the middle of the day. We know this decision could be disruptive to someone in your life. It's time to have a difficult conversation with them. You can do this. We believe in you. The madness stops today. The movement starts now. Help Tampa International Airport become the world's first Crocs-free and pajama-free airport. Please, for the love of God, make this go international. I mean, the Crocs I'm not a fan of, but I can give you a pass on. But please stop wearing your PJs to the airport, people. Please. And stop taking your shoes off on airplanes. That's disgusting. God bless the people who run Tampa International Airport. They have a vision of success for the future. Speaking of vision, if you go to visioncomputers.com or call them at 404-COMPUTE, they can get you a new computer, and they can also be your in-house IT department, where if you ever have a problem with your computer at home or the office, they can take care of you. $199 a year per computer. They can do this just for you and your laptop or your desktop. They can, by the way, build you a laptop or a desktop. They can be your managed IT for your whole office. You got 20 employees and 20 computers. They can be the IT person for each of those people who get a special phone number they can call in 15 seconds or less. Somebody answers the phone and helps them. They can remote in if they need to. They know how to fix computers. They know how to help you over the phone. They know how to remote in to do it. They can do email support, printer support, you name it. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Say Eric Erickson sent me. They might even give you a better deal. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. It doesn't matter if you're in Bangor, Maine, or Phoenix, Arizona, or anywhere else in the U.S. They will help you, take care of you, build your computers, upgrade your computers, and be your managed IT. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com.